What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Many Mistakes Ago podcast. Now, first off, I have a cute new shirt. It says Pooh. I just wanted to share that with you guys. But I'm starting to realize it's super dark in here. Even though I opened up the balcony, okay. We're going to start off with life updates, and then we're going to get into the podcast topic, which is dating red and green, dating red and green flags. So, my life has been hectic lately. Mostly because I've just got a bunch going on, like moving with my girlfriend and kind of like figuring out everything has just been completely hectic, right? So obviously my mind is just exhausted. I don't know, like I've got a lot going on. That's all I have to say. So that, and I'm trying to like sell stuff and donate stuff, and it's a lot, okay, on top of me working, vlogging, podcasting, like the whole 9 yards. So I've definitely been on the grind lately, but I've also been exhausted. And I took last week for myself because I decided like I was worth not stressing, right? And I was like, you know what? I do love podcasting and I do love vlogging and I love content creation, but I need a moment for myself. I need just a week to like spend time with my girlfriend, to do things that I need to do or want to do. So I did vlog a little bit, but I didn't podcast at all. And I also just like didn't really have the time to come up with notes for the content. And I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I've been pretty consistent with posting my podcast that I was like, I deserve a break. Like, it's just 1 week for now. So I was like, let me get into it because I know soon enough, like, my girlfriend and I are probably going to move. Like, we're probably not going to stay here. And if you can't tell, it's kind of a mess. And it's just because we're so tired and so busy. And it's just like never ending. Like, if you're an adult, you know that like everything is never ending, right? It's the chores, the laundry, the dishes, and it's just like, oh my goodness, like I just need one moment to myself. Please, for the love of everything, just give me one moment to myself. And on top of that, I also started Pilates classes. So I'm like, oh my God, when do I have time for anything? Like, I don't even hang out with friends anymore. I don't know what friends are because, like, I'm like doing so much that I'm like, geez, like, if I ever wanted friends, now is not the time. I mean, I do want friends and I do want to hang out with people, but I'm like, right now, I'm in this, like, kind of like I don't want to say shy, but like this mode where I'm just like focusing on me and my goals that I'm like, I'm not out here like going out to eat or partying or drinking or doing the things that I used to do with my friends or even like thrift shopping, you know? Like I used to love all of those things, but now I'm like, okay, Marissa, you just got to settle down. You've got to grind it out. Like I've got school, I've got work, I've got podcasting, I've got vlogging. Like if I want to step up my game, I need to prioritize. And yes, it is lonely not having my friends around and like not really talking to them or like having that bond that I like miss because like I miss my friends. I'm like, holy shit, like what am I doing? But at the same time, I remember when my mom was going back for her degree. This was when she was raising me and my brother, and this was like after her divorce and everything with my dad. I remember her telling me, like looking back on it, because I was struggling a couple years ago with school, she was like, Marissa, like, I did not have a social life when I was in school. I worked my 40 hours. I was doing school full time. I did not have a social life. And I'm like, Mom, I can't do that. Like, I need a social life. And I've come to realize, like, I do need a social life. But at the same time, this means more to me. Like, content creating has kind of become a job to me when I need to refocus myself, because my girlfriend was like, Marissa, like, I think you forget sometimes that, like, podcasting and vlogging and content creation, like, that's supposed to be your outlet. That's supposed to be your hobby. It's supposed to be something that makes you happy. Like, you shouldn't be dreading doing it. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, I do kind of treat it as like another work or job or way to make money, when in reality, like, I know deep down I love doing this, and I need to remind myself why I'm doing this. Like, yes, it is because, like, I do want to have an amazing podcast and I want to reach a lot of people, and I want to feel like I'm contributing and sharing my story and getting my story out there, because I feel like that is one of my purposes in life, if not the purpose of my life, is to share my story and share what I've been through and what I know, and kind of just remind people that they're not alone in it either. Um, but also at the same time, I'm like, I need to remind myself that this is something I love doing. Like, I love this hour that I get to sit here and talk and feel like a therapy session, but also in the same breath, it's not only a therapy session, but it's me learning, because I'm coming up with this content and I'm learning in the process. Like, all of these dating green and red flags, they come from, like, listening to other people, reflecting on my past, and I'm like, I wouldn't have the time to work on myself and reflect if it weren't for some of these podcasts. Like, some of these podcasts are forcing me to reflect on my past and reflect on decisions that were made. So I know I was talking a little bit fast. Maybe it's a little bit of ADHD, but I just, like, I'm really happy, and I need to remind myself daily, like, the world isn't going to end if I don't podcast, but I do want to be as consistent as possible, because I do want to give you guys content to consume. Because otherwise, what am I doing? You know, if I'm not showing up for myself and for my podcast listeners, like, I have to be like, I don't know, like, I have to remind myself, like, this is something that I'm working towards, is having a podcast out there that actually has listeners, you know. Everyone that has an amazing podcast that has hundreds of thousands of listeners or followers or whatever, they didn't just gain it. Like, they had consistency, they had content, they worked towards this goal, and I have to do the same. I can't just expect an overnight frenzy of, like, oh my god, this podcast is amazing, listen to it, and then all of a sudden everybody's listening to it. No, I have to be consistent. I have to prove to myself that I can stay consistent, and that's been something that I've struggled with pretty much all my life, and that I think I've realized. And again, I don't know if it's an ADHD thing where I just kind of move on to the next thing, or I have like a new interest or hobby, but I need to remind myself, like, hey, I've got this, and I can do this, and I can be consistent with it if it's something that I really want. And this is something that I want, is to be a content creator, to be a podcaster, to be a vlogger, because I love it. Like, I feel like it's a creative outlet that I would have never stumbled upon otherwise had I not known. And for everyone that, like, has their outlet, some people it's music. I tried writing music. I suck at it. I'll listen to music, but I want a creative outlet. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, I can't draw, I can't paint. Writing is something that I do like to do occasionally, but to be honest, like, podcasting is it for me, because I get to just talk and let it all out. And that's kind of I mean, in a sense, what most basic therapies involve is just talk therapy. Um, but it feels good sometimes to just let stuff out of my mind and just talk to you guys. Like, I don't know. I know I've probably said this a million times, but it does feel good. And it does make me feel like whoever's listening, like maybe they do care, or maybe they're struggling, and listening to me makes them realize, like, hey, like I'm not the only one. Or maybe whoever's listening learns something, whether it be learn something about me to feel closer to me, or learn something about themselves to feel closer to themselves, or learn a lesson that I effed up in, because if you think about it, like that is the point of this podcast, is that I've made so many mistakes that I don't want to see other people make them if they can help it. Obviously, mistakes are how we learn and how we grow, but some mistakes just shouldn't happen. No, I'm just kidding. Some mistakes are building blocks and some mistakes are avoidable. Let's put it that way. And some of my mistakes are not taking care of myself, for example, and not taking care of my mental health. And again, I feel like content creation, vlogging, podcasting more specifically, is a deeper level to me, where I feel like I am kind of working through self-reflection, talk therapy. Not to say that this should replace therapy at all. It's not. But it's an outlet that is creative and it's healthy. It's not an outlet that is harming myself or others. Maybe if I was talking smack, it would be harmful, but I'm realizing that talking smack is not the way to go. And I've pretty much, I want to say, doubled down on just like ignoring that kind of personality of myself. And just reminding myself that like talking smack is not it. Like, it is in me to be petty, but like this podcast is so much more than that, and I want it to be so much more than that. So I think that I'm just like, nah, like this is not where it should be, and I want my podcast to be meaningful. So without further ado, my last little tidbit about that is just that if I do ever talk about somebody on my podcast, I'm gonna try to speak for what I've already made, but from here on out, it is about my experiences and about learning and growing from them more than it is about the other person and like the drama or what they did to me. Like, yeah, I do want a little bit of drama for you guys to be intrigued, but at the same time, like, there's a lesson in there if I talk about it on this podcast. And that's what I'm going to leave it at that, because we are going to be talking about dating, red and green flags. So of course I'm talking to you about my experiences with dating. Like, I'm not just going to like, not do that. By the way, this is a Starbucks cup that my girlfriend had. And I can't believe I'm showing this to you guys because I feel so wrong drinking out of a Starbucks cup at this time. But I just want to say that I brewed it from home, not with Starbucks coffee, nor with Starbucks creamer, because I do not support. But those are the only iced coffee cups that my girlfriend has. And I'm thinking about telling her that I don't want it in the apartment, but I don't want to hurt her feelings. But also, no, not fuck her feelings, but I know that she doesn't focus on, how do I put this, social issues or political issues or the outside world as much. I don't want to get into the topic of why you shouldn't support Starbucks, but I just wanted to make that clear in case you guys happen to see it as I'm drinking coffee. This is brewed from home from an HEB brand of coffee. If you don't know what HEB is, it is a grocery store that has no political affiliation, and they apparently refuse to have political affiliation. So I don't know how I feel about that, but it's better than supporting the wrong side. But anyway, I don't want my podcast to be about that. Although, that sounds harsh. How do I put this in a way where I can be correct, politically correct? It's not that I don't want to talk about it, but it's not what this podcast is for. If you want to see political affiliation in any way, it's most likely going to be on my Instagram or TikTok more than it is on my podcast, because that's not what my podcast is for. However, go check out the description in this video, because I will have a couple of links if you are interested, just to support as much as I can. However, let's get into today's content, because I have talked y'all's ears off and I'm so sorry. We need to get into the content. Okay, so dating green and red flags. Let's talk about the good first, because I love the good, and of course, why wouldn't we want to talk about it? So here are some important things to note. So when you're talking or dating somebody and it's new, one thing that I have done before Larissa and I got together, before I even considered dating in San Antonio when I moved here, was documenting people's behaviors, whether it's like a mental note, whether you put it in your notes app, whether you put it in their contact, like notes, however you want to document their behaviors. Before I moved to San Antonio, I started doing this graveyard thing. So if people were like not treating me right, I would put like an emoji next to their name, like a skull emoji. And if they got like 3 strikes, they were out, they were in the graveyard. And I did this to remind myself of what I deserve, because I've been through so much with relationships. And I realized that I was in a toxic state and I was attracting toxic. And in order for me to level up, and in order for me to have a healthy relationship, and in order for me to just be a good, decent human being, I have to not be in that toxic state attracting toxic people. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start treating myself as a good human being, and I expect this from other people. I don't want to date toxic. I don't want to be toxic. I hate that part of me. Not that I don't want to work through it, but I don't want the person I'm dating to bring out the worst in me. And in realizing that, I stopped talking to a certain girl. I also did end, any kind of intimacy I had with anybody. So like I was kind of talking to this girl that I'm now friends with, that I did not dump her or, stop talking to her for any reason other than just realizing that we weren't meant for each other, and struggling to tell her because she was such a good person. But I had realized that at that point in my life, I was not ready for something serious. And I was also still attracted to toxicity and attracted to something that was not good for me. And if it was like a nice relationship, it was like boring. And that's a problem, right? Like I should not be bored of the person that I'm talking to. Not that I was bored of her, but it was almost like I needed excitement in my life, and that's how I knew I wasn't ready to date. Because why is it that we want to create problems in order to have excitement, in order to feel like this serotonin boost? Like we shouldn't be starting fights in relationships or even talking to people in order to like get this like high-low feeling. which I realized was created in toxic relationships with other people. So that ended. I had like a friend at the time that ended up being a friends with benefits later in the, in the cycle of me leaving Connecticut, like getting towards me leaving Connecticut. So this was probably January or February of 2023. Yeah, 2023. So, sorry, I'm just like fixing my hair. Not that there's much I can do about it, but it's fine. So with that, I don't know, I realized that I needed a lot more to work on. So in that time, when I was dating people just for fun, and I was like talking to girls and getting comfortable with my sexuality and, kind of realizing like what I was looking for, like I was dating, but I was also trying to figure out what I liked, if that makes sense. So I wasn't seriously dating, it was casual, it was to have fun, and as a lover girl at heart, I was catching feelings for many people when I didn't want to or shouldn't have. But ultimately, everything kind of worked out in the end because, like I said, I did have casual dating in there. I learned people's behaviors and I learned what was good for me. And I did start kind of putting in a mental note of, okay, is this person treating me right? Is this person blowing me off? Am I their second option? Am I their last option? I was learning how people treat other people when they're dating. And I thought that eventually moving to San Antonio, I was going to need this information if I ever wanted a serious relationship, right? But turns out I end up falling for the first person in San Antonio that I like really got to know on a deep level. So when I moved here, I became friends with this girl, Marin. That was like my first friend here. And then Zarina, or Z as I call her. And then Eli came along with Z, and but the third person on that app that I really like, on like an app that I really connected with, was Larissa, which is my now girlfriend. And we became best friends. Like from day one, we were just talking about travel, all of this stuff. Like to this day, her contact name has an airplane next to her because the first thing we talked about was travel. And I had, recently came from Italy and, had that whole solo experience. So that was like in the forefront of my mind. So like I'm talking to her about that, blah, blah, blah. But we just developed such a good like standing ground of a friendship that dating her was not on my mind. However, it was in the same sense. Like, I wasn't ticking off flags and everything and being like, I can't date her because XYZ or anything like that. It came so naturally that I almost didn't think about it. And when we did get together, like, I would have abandoned this whole list. So I think one thing to note is when an emotional connection comes along, when an attraction comes along between two people where you don't even think about it, it just happens and it flows so well and so naturally, you almost don't need this list. And it's so effed up for me to say, but it's true. And a lot of people struggle because they're like, oh, everyone says like when you're not looking, it happens. But like, it's true. Every single time I've gotten into a relationship with somebody or I've like fallen for somebody, it's when I never expected it. It's when I stopped saying that like I was looking for love and I was just looking to be who I am and to find myself, not find who I am with somebody. And it's almost like when you tell the universe, like, I'm working on myself and I'm finding myself and I'm finding my happiness, the universe is like, okay, you know what? Like, let's bring this person in. And they're either going to be the love of your life or they're going to be the biggest lesson you've ever learned. And with Larissa, like, I hope that she's the love of my life. I hope she is not a lesson. But I don't know at the end of the day. Like, I have a gut feeling of, like, I'm going to marry this girl. But I also know that, like, I have felt such a strong feeling about somebody before that, like, this was going to be it for me. That, like, this is what's going to be. But it's also different in the sense that I actually feel something. Not to diss my exes in any way, because obviously I was learning my sexuality at the time, but just realizing, like, what I need in life is exactly what she is. So I just want to say all of that because even though we're talking about flags, I have to say that it's almost as if when you meet the right person, you won't even be thinking about that because you're so intrigued by the person and you're so intrigued to get to know them that you almost forget, like, to have those mental checklists of, you know, red and green flags and what's this, what's that. But I must say, in the moment, there were some times where I would be catching myself because I'd be like, oh, she didn't respond, or oh, she did respond, or maybe I should wait to respond to her so I don't seem so desperate, blah, 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 as friends. Like, I was literally, like, it's almost like in the back of my mind I knew, but I wasn't trying to push it either. But with that being said, take people as they are at face value. So with Larissa, this was a good thing because I was taking her at face value most of the time. Yes, I was trying to read into, does she like me? Like, what's going on? Like, am I a fool for thinking she feels some way? But I also was taking it at face value by the things that she said being what she meant, and understanding that, like, you know, she had her own shit that she was going through. I'm not going to put her shit on blast because I respect her, but, like, she had her own shit that she was going through. I had my own shit that I was going through. And in the moment, us being friends felt right, was right, until we both just naturally fell for each other. But when you are dating, you want to take people at face value, especially even if it's known that you guys are dating. Like, let's say, you know, you're swiping on the apps and you're looking for a relationship, or you're looking to be casual, whatever the case, like, you already know that's going on. With me and Larissa, we had no idea because we were trying to be friends, because that's what we were both looking for. We're friends to build a community, to, you know, have a bond that, like, would be set for life. Little did we know. But no, seriously. Take people at face value. If they aren't giving you the time of day, if they're not giving you the attention that you're looking for when you're, you know, trying to date or talk to them or, you know, connect with them, take it at face value. If they're saying, I can't meet, you know, with you until 9:00 at night, and that's the only time I have, take that at face value. Like, if they value your time, I'm sorry, but why is it that guys or girls say, like, I work such crazy hours, like, you know, I can meet at, like, you know, I don't get off till like 7, so I can meet you at 9, but I have to wake up early. Like, that's an excuse. They don't want to spend time with you. With Larissa, when we were even meeting up to, like, meet each other as friends for the first time, we planned to meet at, like, I want to say like 4:30 or something like that. Like, I had gotten off of work at 3:30, so I was like, okay, like, we can meet at 4:30. And even though some shit happened and, like, she didn't make it, she was a little bit late, I've learned that that's her personality. I love her very, very much, but she can be late. I've learned that's her personality because she's not like me in the sense of, if I say I'm going to meet a friend at this time, like, I have to be there because I want to be punctual. I want to be on top of my word. And with her, it's like, okay, well, we're human. Like life happens. Like, I broke something and I had to fix it, whatever. The case being, it makes me realize, okay, we are different people, but at the same time, she communicated with me every step of the way. She was like, okay, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm leaving now. And it made me realize, like, if they want to communicate with you, if they care about you, they're going to update you. They're going to be step by step with you. And if they care about your connection, they're not going to leave you hanging. And they're also going to want to hang out with you. Like, she still made an effort to get there as soon as she could. And then we hung out. We literally talked for hours. Like, I don't think we got home until like 1 o'clock. Like, you're telling me, I want to say like 5 o'clock was when we actually ended up meeting. So from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, let's go with 12, 7 hours. So you're telling me 7 hours. The dogs are going crazy because somebody's walking by the window. Hold on. I'm sorry, they're still kind of barking, but we're going to deal with it. So, as I was saying, 7 hours. If they wanted to, they would. And you need to take that at face value, because after that night, I was like, wow, I really like this girl. Like, I thought like I just wanted to be friends with her, but there is something about this connection that I can't deny. And I know that we're both talking to other people. But if this is going to happen, like if this is meant to be, it's going to happen. And it did. It did. It took a couple of months, but I think instinctively I knew. And I was okay with riding along as her friend, because I was like, you know what? Even though I do like her, like that could mean nothing. And that's okay. And I think not trying so hard to like convince her to like pick me, or like convince her to like me back, and just going with the flow of being her friend and being there for her, was ultimately what led us to have such an easy connection, to just talk with each other, that natural development of caring about each other, whatever, like that was there. It was literally like friendship to lovers, like that kind of vibe. Literally it was. And I low key like knew this was gonna happen for years. Like even before I met her, like I was like on TikTok and doing those little TikTok filters, and that was going to be my next relationship, was friendships to lovers trope and all of this stuff. So it's like instinctively I knew it was coming, but at the same time I was like, I'm not going to force it. Like I just want to be in her life. And that goes to show like how much it means to just take people at face value, and to just not force things. Let things be and happen and unfold naturally as they should, because we spend so much time thinking and overanalyzing, and I'm guilty of that too, but we spend so much time overanalyzing that it's like, shit, like if I just like let this be, this could be the most amazing thing. And like it wouldn't be work. It wouldn't be overanalyzing or whatever. But enough said. Let's get into the green flags, because I'll kind of talk through of like what's important, because I noticed that with this green flags list, Larissa and I had a lot of green flags together. So number 1 was they don't play games, they're consistent. I talk to Larissa every single day. After a certain point, there were days where we wouldn't respond to each other, but I wanted to talk to her every single day. And I realized, like, okay, I need to not be so pushy and like clingy and like respond right away. So I'll dial it down, but I do want to talk to her. I was like, but I need to be respectful of the time I'm taking away from her life, because like at some points we were texting like back and forth nonstop. So I was like, okay, like she's got to be working, right, at some points. And like I was working too, but the job that I had, I was able to fit in texts here and there, as I could. And she knew that too. Like she was like, no worries, like work is work. But we were at some point texting every single day, and that was consistency. And it was because we both genuinely wanted to have conversation and talk to each other every single day. Like if I hadn't heard from her in a couple of hours, I started to miss having the conversation with her. And that was such a green flag of like, this person needs to be in my life, because like this is exactly like the feeling that I should have when dating somebody. Number 2, you always know where you stand with them and you can speak your mind to them. So I want to talk about this because in my situation, it was a little bit different because we were friends and I wanted more, but I couldn't go about that at that time because I was being respectful of both of our situations, both of what we were going through, because we were both single. Don't get me wrong. We were both single, but we were also both talking to other people. And we both met each other and swiped on the app that we met on with the knowledge of friendship. And I want to make that clear. And that's why I want to say, like, knowing where you stand didn't really fit with us because we weren't originally planning to date. It just was something that happened and progressed naturally. And as of like November, like literally I met her in September. Like we first like hung out in September. And we, I think, started talking to each other sometime in August. And we were friends and that's how it was going to be, but things progressed naturally. So I did have confusion on where we stood, but that was because we both wanted something more but had trouble saying it because we had the basis of friendship. When you're dating, that's not always going to be the case. Most of the time you're dating and you're dating and that's what you're working towards. So in that case with me and Larissa, it's a little bit different, but overall you should know where you stand with that person. Are you talking? Are you dating? Are you exclusive? What category are you? Because when you're talking, that's like before you meet somebody. Then you go on dates, that's dating them. Maybe not exclusively, you could be dating other people, but that is the dating stage, is going on dates. And then you have the next category of being exclusive, where you only date them and you get to know them. And that's such a crucial, important part of dating is getting to know them before you're jumping into a relationship. And that's kind of what Larissa and I did, but at a friendship level, which is why it was so confusing. However, once you get to know them, you say, okay, there's got to be a certain point where we either are exclusive and now we're like girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend, partner, like whatever you identify as, right? They're your partner. Or you say, I don't know if this is somebody I want to be my partner. I need to learn how to go about this. And that is a tough decision to make. And I've had that tough decision quite a few times. Like I said, there was a girl that I ended up cutting things off with. She was such a good, genuine person that I was like, this is somebody I want to be with. But I am missing something. And I don't know if it's me, self-sabotaging, or if it's me, like, realizing, like, I'm not ready. Like, that was kind of, the situation. Like, not every good person needs to be a person that you're dating. And I think it took me a long time to realize that because I had been in such shitty relationships that I was like, okay, I don't need to, like, be with this person just because they're a good person. Like, I can be with somebody and fall in love with them and be with somebody and have this connection that I've never felt. Like, if I'm dating girls now, I need to make sure I'm having that feeling. And not to say that I didn't care or like this girl that I was talking to and ended things with, but it was just realizing, like, just because she was a good person doesn't mean I need to be with her. And I'm so happy that I had eventually made that decision, because we both knew it was coming. And she ended up meeting the love of her life. I ended up meeting Larissa. And it's like, I can look on that time fondly now and be like, you know, it was a lesson that I needed to learn ultimately. And it sucks because it's like, WTF, like, you know, she's an amazing girl, but it's also like, okay, just because this person is amazing doesn't mean I need to be with them. That shouldn't be the only requirement in love. And that was kind of what I was trying to be taught by maybe the universe. I don't know. Anyway, number 3, this is my favorite. It is easy to be yourself and you are comfortable around them. I literally talked my ear off with Larissa the first time we met. And so did she. Like, we just went back and forth. There were maybe some pauses here and there, but ultimately, like, I'm pretty sure my ADHD / autistic traits came out because she asked me if I was autistic the first time we met. But no, seriously, like, I was so open with her and vice versa that it just felt natural. And this was the first time we were meeting. All we did was just talk, and it was great. And it made me realize, like, if I can be this comfortable around somebody, meeting them for the first time, even though I'm super nervous and I realize that I like her now, it was still easy to be myself and not have to, like, put on a face of who I was. Not have to pretend to be happy or pretend to be this or pretend to be that. Like, if I was sad, she knew. If I was going through something, she knew. If I was happy, she knew. It didn't matter. I was myself 100%. And that's what needs to happen. You can't pretend to be happy-go-lucky all the time just to get the girl or the guy or, you know, the person that you're going after. Like, that's not how it works. You need to be yourself. Because if you're trying to get into a relationship with somebody, you should be yourself, because otherwise you're fucking yourself over in the process. But that's besides the point. Number 4, they have a healthy relationship with their family and a good group of friends. This is good, but I beg to differ, because there's different levels to everything. So, for example, let's say you're dating a guy. If he has a really uncomfortable, and I think this is in my red flags, if he has a really uncomfortable relationship with his mother and he's like such a mama's boy, I'm sorry, but that's a red flag. Especially because you should be able to have a relationship with your mom. Please do, because that's important. But if there's a level like that's my son, that's my baby, and like it never goes away, and he's like 30 years old and like mom's still like cooking, cleaning, and doing your laundry, that's a problem. That's a problem. Like, your son needs to learn how to be an adult. Like, he's 30 and living at the house. I'm a little concerned. Respectfully, I'm a little concerned. This day and age, obviously, like, living at your parents' house at an older age, I'm not gonna harp so much on because the economy is ridiculous, but at least be able to, like, do chores and your own laundry and, like, not have mama do everything for you. And, like, have an uncomfortable relationship where, like, I don't know, like, you're massaging your mom's back, or like just like this really uncomfortable vibe of a relationship. Like, if you know, you know. But having a healthy relationship with your family, not having some creepy kind of like infestation kind of look, or I don't know, infestation was not the word, but you know what I mean. Not having some creepy relationship with your parents, and also not having a horrible relationship with your parents, because sometimes that can affect things as well. I was dating a girl who, her mom did not like her being gay, and it struggled, her and I's relationship, because my mom was open and honest with me, and I was open and honest with her. Like, I came out to her at 13 that I was bisexual, and then when I realized, like, after dating guys, I don't have those feelings for guys that I do for women. And when I finally was like dating women, I was like, wow, like, I see what I'm missing out on. Like, I see what love is. And I told my mom I'm a lesbian. Like, she did not deny it. She was like, I understand. Like, it makes sense. And to have that accepting, like, that I was craving for so long, because I don't know what y'all know. I don't know if I've talked about my dad, but my dad is Jehovah's Witness as far as I'm aware. And when I was younger, like, I had questions about my sexuality, and I was not allowed to like girls. And when I first came out to my mom, I do remember her being like, you know, this is a phase. But like, if my dad ever heard that, which I don't think my mom ever told my dad, but if my dad ever heard that, I don't know what would have happened. Like, I don't know what his reaction would be, and I don't ever want to find out. Respectfully and disrespectfully, like, I have no relationship with my father. And I guess I just want to put that out there, because it doesn't always go the way you want it to when you come out to your parents. And this was a struggle on me and this girl's, you know, relationship, because her mom was like, almost convincing her that she should just be with a guy, and that being with a girl was like wrong and like sinful, and like, you know, it made me struggle, because internally I was like, I don't know if I could marry a girl who didn't have supportive parents, who like was still trying to get them to like be with a guy, because it's like, then I feel like I'm never gonna have a relationship with that girl's mom. And like, I am huge on family, like, in a certain sense. Like, I'm obviously, like, I have no problem cutting ties with my homophobic family members, or, you know, anyone that has a problem with me being gay. But I do care about the family that cares about me, and I do recognize that like family does mean something to me, you know, in healthy terms, let's put it that way. So it was a struggle for me to come to terms with that, and I don't want to say that was the demise of our relationship, because it wasn't. It was because we were toxic together, and that's that. But I realized, like, I need somebody who has a relationship with their family regardless of their sexuality. You know, the sexuality should not come into play. And like, it's okay to, I don't want to say it's okay, because it's not okay, but I can understand a parent wanting to be in their child's life but not being comfortable with their sexuality, because it is a lot to come to terms with. But goodness gracious, it is 2024. So that is my stance on that. It is 2024, and I think we should be more accepting, but I have to recognize that not everybody is as open as I am. Not everybody is as open as queer people. Not everybody understands that love is who you find in a person and not what body parts they have. It's a soul connection for me, and I have had trouble all of my life connecting with men. And why is it that so naturally I can connect with a woman? It just makes me realize, like, not everybody's going to see that stance, and I have to be accepting of that. So I'm not saying that it's okay to be a parent that doesn't accept their child's sexuality, but I can see where they're coming from and understand that they don't have the open-mindedness of it, because they're not experienced in it, and they're not shown it. I don't know how to like phrase that better, but it's like, I feel like growing up I struggled with my own sexuality because I was not seeing that sexuality anywhere. Like I said, my dad is Jehovah's Witness. It was like forbidden to like women in that way. So I struggled even myself and had that religious trauma, but I could recognize growing up that I could be my own person, have my own views, and ultimately understand that love is love, right? If we can have different types of relationships, what is so wrong about marrying the same sex? Honestly, in this day and age, respectfully. That is all I'm going to say on that, because I want to get through this list and this podcast is getting long. But the good group of friends is also into play. Like for me, my group of friends is back home in Connecticut, and I'll always recognize that because I'm just not going to find a friend group like that here. I've tried, but I don't even want to stay in San Antonio, so I don't know if it's worth trying to have a friend group here, or if I just kind of go about life doing what I want to do. So that's kind of why I say the friend group is a little iffy on me, because like I do have a good group of friends, but they're not here, and there's a reason for that. It's because I moved, and I removed myself from Connecticut to be my own person and find myself and find my life, and I did. And I don't have a good group of friends because I left them. You know, like I moved out of the state. So it's I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it's like I do love and care about my friends, and I do have a good group of friends, but I don't hang out with them because they're thousands of miles away. So yeah, it kind of sucks, but I guess the main point is that you're able to have healthy relationships with people. That is important, right? That's a green flag. If you don't have good relationships with people, what are you doing? You need to work on yourself. Stop dating, respectfully. Number 5, they have a healthy perspective on past relationships. This is a good one because I'm tired of hearing my ex is crazy. It can be true. It can be. But it can also be true that you just weren't good for them. That maybe they were healthy, but the love wasn't there. Maybe you were healthy, but you were better off as friends. There's so many other scenarios than like having someone talk badly about their ex. And I've come to terms with not talking badly about my exes to a certain degree. Like I won't badmouth them, but if something happened, like I was sexually assaulted by one of my exes, and I'm saying that in the most matter of fact way. I don't look to smear his name. I don't, if I do talk about him, I don't say his name because it's not worth mentioning, because I'm not here to start drama. I'm here to say I'm taking the claim as someone who's been sexually assaulted, because it does happen, and not a lot of people talk about being sexually assaulted by the person they're dating or in a relationship with. So I talk about it in a matter of fact way, but also I'm healed, so I'm able to do so. I think when we're triggered or when we're still struggling, we tend to talk about things in a more emotional way, which can be triggering, it can be messy, it can be toxic. But I'm at a point in my life where I can talk about my exes in a matter of fact way and be like, this happened, that happened. Like, it's very matter of fact at this point because I've moved past it. And I think that's the green flag in it, is that you're able to be at a point in the relationships where you don't play victim, you don't, you know, you don't not talk about your wrongdoings or like try to hide your wrongdoings, but you just say things in a matter of fact way, like, yes, this happened, or yes, this happened. Like, you can own up to your mistakes, you can talk about what they did to you, but it's in a matter of fact way. I don't know. I'm trying to like word it. I try to word things to where they make sense, and then I think to myself, does this make sense? But essentially, what I'm trying to say is I'm not sitting here talking shit about them. I'm talking about what happened. And it just so happens that they are the person that happened with. And that's not to sit there and be like, oh my God, they shouldn't date them, blah, blah, blah. Like, people can change, people can heal, but ultimately, people also cannot change, so you don't know. It's all about just owning up to your experiences and realizing that not everything is one-sided. And I'll leave it at that because I could go on a tangent, but I refuse to do that because that's not what this episode is about. Okay. Number 6. They are motivated. They are driven. They are passionate, and they are working towards something, or they have goals. For me, this is a huge one because I have dated people who don't have anything to work towards. And I am the complete opposite. I'm working on this podcast, right? I'm vlogging. I want to be a content, like, I'm working towards content creating and having content up weekly for you guys. I'm also in school to learn, a new trade that I'll be able to do for work. Like, I am 27 years old and I am still working to be a better version of myself. I am dedicated and I'm driven to keep going because the motivation feeds me and the motivation keeps me wanting to focus on something. Like, I have a goal. And I didn't realize this for a long time, but these motivations and these goals keep me going week by week. And yes, it does get tiring, but it also keeps the depression at bay. And what I mean by that is there have been times where I'm like not motivated, not really wanting to do things, but I literally like get so depressed that I like don't want to be on this earth. I don't want to get out of bed, but I do things that make me want to get out of bed. And keeping myself busy and keeping myself occupied are huge things to keep me going. But I can also kind of take that step back when I need to, if I need to. Like, for example, last week I didn't post a podcast because I was spending time with my girlfriend. I was doing other things that were more important at that time. So I can recognize like where I need to kind of relax, but I'm also a motivated, driven, passionate person at heart, and I'm not going to give up and just be lazy. Like, I'll have my lazy days, but I'm not ultimately going to be lazy. And I think that's very important when you're looking for somebody to date. You want them to be passionate about things. You don't always want them to just sit around and do nothing. Like, you want to have somebody who is going to be your partner and keep you motivated too, whether it doesn't have to be, laundry, chores, or whatever. It can be going to the gym together. It can be staying healthy and active. There's so many things that you can be passionate and driven towards, that it doesn't have to be just work or just health or just the chores. Like, there's different things that we're all passionate about, and if they're passionate about at least one thing, like, that is amazing, because it's hard to like keep passion for something. Number 7, they make a genuine effort to talk to you and see you. I've kind of talked about that already, but essentially, like, they're not calling you saying, hey, like, let's meet at like 9 p.m., but you have to go at like 11 because I have to work early. Like, they're making a genuine effort to talk to you and see you and actually like have time with you and get to know you. That is important. They're going to make it work. If they're busy, I get it, but they're still going to make time for you. Even if they're busy, they're going to say, when are you free? I will make it work. Or if they have a busy schedule, they're going to say, I'm free here, 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 and here. They're going to just list it out for you. They're not going to guess. They're not going to leave you hanging. They are going to communicate, and that's the next one, so I'll kind of go into it. But they are open, honest, and clear with communication. They're going to tell you exactly when they can meet, exactly when they can talk. They're going to try to communicate with you as much as possible. They're going to put in that effort. Number 9, they respect your boundaries. This one's important because they need to respect what you put down. And the one thing I do want to mention about boundaries that I have talked about when I was reviewing that boundaries book was a lot of us don't realize that we don't set boundaries. And then we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations because we're like, that's my boundary, but you haven't communicated that to the person. So keep that in mind, because there's a difference between somebody not respecting a boundary that you did not tell them about and somebody not respecting a boundary that you have clearly laid the line on. And then number 10, the last one of the green flags, is you feel safe around them. If you do not feel safe and comfortable around the person you are dating or talking to or in a relationship with, that is a problem. I'm going to make this clear because I do want to talk about this just a teeny bit. But as someone with PTSD, it's hard to keep in mind, if you do date somebody with a mental illness, there's a difference between being triggered and a difference between feeling safe around that person, because there have been times where I have felt safe around somebody, but I have also been triggered in a certain way or fashion that I take it out on the person I'm safe around. And I just want to kind of put that into perspective, because overall, yes, you will feel safe around them, but you have to recognize that there are it's very unlikely, unless you're dating somebody with PTSD or a mental illness, that can cause an unsafe feeling. But I also want to talk about it because it's 2024. A lot of us do struggle with mental illness, and this is a green flag that I want to put a kind of star or a side note on, in the sense that you feel safe around them, but you have to make sure you're you. Because I've had PTSD episodes where I am in that active, like, feeling of a PTSD episode, because you're there but you're not, and you don't realize who's around you. And that was this very scary feeling for my girlfriend, because this did happen with her in my presence. And I realized, like, when she was like trying to calm me down, I was like, where the fuck am I? Because I was like, I knew I was there, but I didn't know that I was there. And that's a weird feeling. So just keep in mind that if you date somebody with a mental illness, like, it can be tricky, but overall, I have that feeling that I'm safe with her, and I know that I am. And that's something that, if you're dating somebody, like, it's just a thing. You just know. You never feel unsafe, but keep in mind that mental illnesses can play with you and trick your mind into certain things. And that's all I want to say on that, because this episode is getting long and we've got red flags. So I have 7 red flags, and I'm going to go through them because I feel like I've had enough kind of ad-lib side notes that I can just kind of list them off. So number 1, red flag: excessively showering you with attention and compliments in the beginning, which is love bombing. If you don't know what love bombing is, look it up on TikTok, on YouTube. There's tons, but essentially love bombing is like showering you with love and affection when you first start talking to somebody, and then slowly, like, tapering that away. But love bombing is the first portion. Tapering it away tends to happen after love bombing. But anyway, red flag number 2: you feel like you are on the receiving end of a therapy session. this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. I'm giving you guys good notes. But if you feel like when you talk to the person that you're dating, you are always listening to them, you are always trying to make them feel better, and you feel like they're a therapist, that's a problem. Number 3, they are oddly close with their mother. This usually goes if you're dating a cis man. Usually. And I want to keep in mind my audience. I don't know who listens. But if you are dating a cis man and he is obviously close with his mother, that is a problem. Number 4, they are unclear about where they stand. If you don't know, if they don't know, that's a problem. Number 5, they are very casual and nonchalant about everything. I do have something to say about this because I did date somebody who was very chill and usually didn't stress about things, and it was very odd to me. Like, they were very like nonchalant about a lot of things, and I was like, okay, maybe that's their personality. But I came to realize like our relationship did not work out because we were not compatible in that way as well, amongst other things. But when they're nonchalant all the time, that's a problem, because why don't they care about anything? You have to have something that you stand for or believe in, and if they're very casual and nonchalant about things, that probably means they don't have much that they care about, and that's unsettling. Red flag. Number 6, I did talk about this, but I'm just gonna say it. They can only hang out late. For example, 9 to 11 p.m. They have a crazy work schedule, blah, blah, blah. They don't have a lot of time to spend time with you. And if they say this and they're like, oh, like, we can hang out from this time to this time and it's super late, let's just go to my apartment, they're just trying to sleep with you and kick you out. That's what they're trying to do. Please keep that in mind. If they have a crazy schedule, they will do better than 9 to 11 p.m. If they're serious, they will do better than 9 to 11 p.m. or 11 to 12 or crazy hours of the night. They will do better. I promise. Number 7, last red flag here. They say it's not the right time, or they have a lot of stuff to work on, or something about the timing being bad, especially if it's right person, wrong time. I don't want to hear that personally. Everyone is ready to date if they are with the right person, or if it is about the right person. Nobody is going to give up their dream person. Nobody. I'm fully believed you are not going to give up your dream person if it's not the right time. You're not, because you don't want to lose that and you don't want to miss out on that. And I am convinced at this, because if Larissa and I had struggles, best your butt, I'm working that out. Best your butt, I am working that out. That is my person. I don't care what the timing is. I'm going to make it work. So that's a big, big red flag. If they're like, I'm just working on myself, or it's just wrong time. Why are you on a dating app? Log out. Go fix yourself. Come back when you're ready, because this shit is getting tiring. Okay, and I just want to add some stuff because I did hear in this podcast, because I listen to List Boss a lot, and a lot of these topics are from things that I've gathered from her. And to reiterate her stuff on here is like my realization that like I love listening to her and I love her advice, and adding my own kind of experiences to this in this podcast. Like, I love it. And there's a lot of red and green flags that you can look for, right? But those are definitely like top-notch ones. But how to know if somebody is the one. And I like this because I can talk about this. So one thing I've learned with Larissa is no matter how I am feeling, I am always able to be calmed down by her. I am always able to just shut off my feelings, not like shut down, but kind of just have those calmed and come to a rational place. Sometimes it might take a moment, but overall, I feel so much less anxiety with her than I do without. Number 2, I feel so aligned to her. Again, I said that we started off as friends, but I just knew. Everything just made sense. And it was natural and it was effortless. And even though I did have my moments of being crazy and like, questionable about it, at the end of the day, it was natural and effortless. And that is a huge, like, just knowing that they're the one. Number 3, you don't have to give them multiple chances. If they are the one, they're going to respect you. They're going to have the green flags that I listed earlier, and they're going to make sure that they don't fuck up. And if they're scared of fucking up, they're not foreshadowing, they're just terrified, but at the same time, they're going to make sure that they don't fuck up. So it's not going to be a problem. Because you know those people when they're like, I just don't want to hurt you, and they end up hurting you? No, they're going to make sure that they don't hurt you. That is the one. Just saying. They're not going to throw their fears out there as a foreshadowing. They're going to throw their fears out there and make sure that they don't make those come true. Number 4, you feel like you are on the same page of the same book. Like you guys are just in sync. You agree on things in life. You don't have to agree on everything. You can agree to disagree. But overall, you feel like you're on the same page about life. You feel like things are aligned and you feel like you get each other. Number 5. This is my favorite because I feel like lesbians feel like this often. But it really is true. No time with them ever feels like it's enough. You feel like you could be with them and lay next to them for 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, and it still would not be enough time with them. Number 6, that person feels like home to you. Home is not wherever you are, it is where they are. That is your home, that is your person. That's how you know they're the one. And last but not least, not only do they like calm you down, but they don't trigger anxiety in you. And this is a tough one because like people do get anxiety about the person that they like, but ultimately they'll calm it if it does happen, but they also won't be the one to trigger it. So if you are feeling anxious or insecure, they will calm those insecurities and it feels great. I've got to go because my girlfriend's calling me, but follow me for more and I will see you next time on Money Mistakes Ago. Hey, hun.